Okay. Did everyone find a seat? See some people still standing. You want to grab a seat? Sit down. All right. For those of you who didn't know it yet, it does sometimes work. You're ruining my intro.
Sorry.
For those of you who didn't know it yet, we're going to the cloud. And let's have Maarten tell us everything about it. Go ahead, Maarten.
Thank you. So I got to say, it's pretty awesome to be here in such a big theater. And it's a shame we didn't know about the venue a little bit more beforehand, because I could have planned more like props and lighting effects and smoke and stuff. But that's fine. I'll just wow you with my presentation. Right, so we're going to the cloud. My name is Maarten Dirkse. I work for the DPI team. We are heavily involved in going to the cloud, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about why that should excite you and what will be different about the company when we're running, or the IT part of the company when we're running in the cloud. Because, well, I have a newsflash for you. Bol.com is pretty awesome. Of course, you already knew this, but if you compare us to a couple of the sort of technology leaders, shall we say, in the Dutch technology space, Wekamp, Rabobank, ING, Coolblue. If you hear their stories about what they're doing and you see what we're doing, then you can more or less see that we're doing pretty cool stuff and we're a long ways away to becoming a really, really great tech platform. On the other hand, and this works better if the timing of the presentation works as well. On the other hand, I remember ING, Wekamp, Rabobank, Coolblue. On the other hand, fuck those guys. I really don't care how we compare to some stupid farmer bank and some glorified mail order company in terms of tech stack. This is not the bar that I set for myself, and that's not the bar that I want Bol.com to set for itself. So forget about those guys. Another newsflash: we suck, relatively speaking. If you compare us to the big boys, Spotify, Google, Netflix, Amazon, guys, we're really out there on the cutting edge. We're not there yet by a long way. But the cloud is here to help. So I was kind of two minds of how to go about this presentation. So we have to get to the next level of IT to remain competitive. I'm convinced of this. And the cloud is the enabler. I like to think of myself as something of a cloud evangelist because I have religion about cloud and what it could mean for Bol.com. So I was kind of wondering if I should be like the kind of fiery doom of what we call in Dutch hell and verdoemenis, like you will go to hell if you don't do this, preacher, telling you like, damn it, the cloud is out there, it offers so many opportunities, you should really, really be taking advantage of this, and if you're not taking advantage of this, you're completely crazy. Or, on the other hand, if I should sort of be, spreading the good news, like, oh, right, we're going to the cloud, it's going to be so awesome. Everybody, yes, of course, we're all sinners, etc., but, the cloud has so much to offer and it will save us all. So I decided to go for the latter type of presentation because I think you'll respond better to that than me telling you that you're not doing good enough. Right. So what does the cloud mean to you as a Bol.com IT employee? So first of all, on the one hand, virtually endless possibilities, no practical limits to compute, storage, etc., but it's not free. And on the other hand, much more control, do stuff you can't do in the DC right now, but also more responsibility for you. So, first of all, endless possibilities. This is an email from our colleague René Kroon, back when Team Apollo still existed, and he was running Box, and Box had some stability issues, and René said, great news, we've ordered new hardware to fix the stability issues, but it'll take until the end of April before it's installed. And this email was sent on the 28th of March. So more than a month between ordering the hardware and having it installed to actually fix your stability issues. No more of that shit in the cloud, right? Press a button, new hardware, new virtual machines, more storage. It's all virtually limitless, and it's all available at an instant. So that's already a great win. Who knows who this guy is? Werner Vogels, yes, the most famous Dutch tech person in the world, probably. His name is Werner Vogels. He's the CTO of Amazon, also known as the boss of AWS. He gave a presentation at the big Amazon conference that they hold once a year called reInvent a couple of years ago, in which he said, stop thinking in traditional limitations. So when you plan a new service, when you plan something that you want to do as a team, don't try to predict usage. You don't know what your usage will be. There is no point in trying to predict something that you can only know when you actually measure it when it's out there. And because we're in the cloud and we have a whole bunch of resources at our fingertips, there's no point in trying to do these exercises where you want to know beforehand how much CPU, how much storage, how much network bandwidth, all that stuff will take. Doesn't matter. Launch something and measure it. Don't try to predict. Second, design and engineer like you have unlimited resources. And for all intents and purposes, you do. You have unlimited storage, unlimited CPU, etc., etc. Don't go into a process thinking, well, if we do this, it might take up a whole lot of storage, or if we do this, it might take up a whole lot of CPUs. You had to do that in the DC because stuff would take a month to order, not so in the cloud. But be aware of the costs, because when Werner Vogel says, design like you have unlimited resources, he means design like you have unlimited resources because you'll be using those resources and paying me to use them. Now, we won't be paying Werner, we'll be paying Google, but the concept is exactly the same. You have to be acutely aware of the business case for your service. If you're going to spend thousands of euros storing petabytes of data that are going to generate very little business value, then don't do that. Be very aware of what the business case is behind the technology that you're rolling out, and more acutely aware, I would say, than you are now in the DC. Right, microservice architecture. Who here has heard of a microservice architecture and thinks he knows what it is? He or she knows what it is. That's not too many people. Right, microservices are have been for a while the new buzzword. What you're looking at here are the Amazon.com and the Netflix service architectures. Takeaway, there is no architecture. If you create a microservice in this scenario, you have no idea who your consumers are, you have no idea how it will be used, how much it will be used, and by how many people it will get used. So in order to be able to survive in that kind of environment, and by the way, we want this kind of environment, you need to start thinking, or first of all, you need to start thinking in fine-grained services that have their own data store, which doesn't need to be PostgreSQL, by the way. Right now in the data center, it's really easy to get a PostgreSQL store, but there are other options out there in the Google Cloud. You have data store. You can run all kinds of things yourself on VMs if you want to experiment with different kinds of things like Cassandra. You have managed Redis, for instance. Not everything not every application is suited to a transactional RDBMS. New services will be really easy to launch. So that's really something that we try to, from the platform side, we try to make it really easy to launch new services. There will be no more NFR, but with a tiny asterisk, which the asterisk is there probably will be an NFR, but it will be it will be a lot simpler than the one we have now. And I personally have I'm kind of a mission to get rid of the NFR. So if I have my way, there will be no more NFR, but it will be a lot easier to launch a new service. That means that instead of packing that API that new API that you were thinking about into an existing service because it's too much work to launch a new service, launch that new service because it can be scaled independently, can be managed independently, can be evolved independently. And there's a lot of advantages to having this microservice architecture with a lot of fine-grained services that do one thing and do it well. Do 1,000 deploys a month. Why? Because we're going to make it really, really easy to do that, and because you can keep the changes really small. If something breaks, you know exactly which 2 or 3 commits the change that broke something is located in. Makes it really easy to do rollbacks, makes it really easy to figure out where the bug is. And it also makes it really easy to put that business value, instead of keeping it on a shelf in the form of undeployed code, put it in the hands of customers immediately. Start testing in production. Why? Well, because test can't break if it's not there. Really simple concept. A giant shared test environment is really, really bad for our productivity. Why? Because it can break, and that means that people have problems running their stuff on test. one. And two, the test environment is not representative of anything whatsoever, because in a world where everybody's just doing their deploys all the time, you never know what the composition is of the test environment. All kinds of different services could be changing their versions at any time. You don't know what you're testing against. It's all pretty much pointless. Just go to where it really matters, to production, and test there. How do you test there? Oh, sorry about that. How do you test there? Well, for instance, do automated canary releases, which is also something that we're going to make available. Be resilient. Make sure that your services can, for example, handle failure of other services. All the stuff that we're already encouraging, but now it becomes a lot more important. Forget about technical monitoring. Focus on functional monitoring. What I mean by that, for example, I'm in the platform alert group, and so once every 6-7 weeks I have a telephone that alerts me to when things go wrong in the platform space, and every once in a while I get an alert that says, hey, some server is at 95% memory utilization. Well, is that really a problem? It's only a problem if we're on our way to 100. But if we're at stable 95% memory or CPU utilization, that's really great. It's not something you should be monitoring. What you should be monitoring is if the amount of transactions that you're processing today, that curve that you have in the amount of transactions, if that is significantly different from the one you had yesterday, which was also a business day. Start thinking about functional monitoring instead of worrying about the actual hardware and the software that is running your service. Start thinking about what it means to your end customers and when there's a problem for them instead of when there's a problem for the tech. And finally, on the limitless possibility part, Google's probably already built it. If you're thinking about some sort of general purpose thing that you want to build, there's a good chance that Google, with its incredibly large and ever-expanding portfolio of API-driven products that it manages for you, that it's already built something along those lines. Don't reinvent the wheel. And if you've already reinvented the wheel, for example, if the wheel happens to be called books, then don't be afraid to discard it and use the wheel that Google's invented. That's okay, yeah. Feel free to experiment with new stuff. We're in the Google Cloud because of all the possibilities it offers. We're not in the Google Cloud, so you can use a gated, small subset of stuff that C6 or C7 allows you to use. Feel free to experiment and ask to experiment. And focus on what makes bol.com and your service special. Don't try to do stuff that Google can do better. Right. I have 5 minutes. Right, thanks. So, more control. So this is my mixer board analogy. You have all these buttons that you can't touch if you want to, which means you have really, really fine-grained control over all the stuff you do. For instance, and the team will have much more autonomy, because that's the other part. The more control you have, the less you are dependent on other teams to do stuff for you. So the cautionary tale of the Tuxby merge request. How many of you here have ever done a Tuxby merge request? Right. So Tuxby merge requests are stuff that you need to do to be able to change your CI pipeline in Jenkins. And then a member from my team, a member from DPI, has to approve it. So I have when someone submits this, we usually approve it right away. But still, I have a small illustration of what it feels like to the end user waiting for this merge request to be approved. More or less like that. Even though it's always approved within like 2 minutes, basically, it still feels like a huge amount of time because it's a dependency. We want to cut those dependencies and make teams more autonomous. For example, the stack that your application runs on. Right now, you are as a developer, you're responsible for the app, and the SRT and Tim is responsible for the rest. In the cloud, because we use Docker, you'll be responsible for most of the stack, except for the kernel. Docker gives you control of your stack. Kubernetes gives you control of your deployment setup. R2D2 gives you control of your infrastructure. GitLab CI gives you control of your continuous integration. And finally, Spinnaker gives you control of your delivery. All that stuff is something that you as a team can do yourself, for which you will be dependent on nobody. But if you want to go in and actually mess with the knobs and the sliders, the training wheels will come off. The people that you used to throw stuff over the wall to might not necessarily be there to help you anymore. If you screw up your deployment in Spinnaker because you did some crazy stuff, well, then that's your responsibility. Of course, you can still ask for help, but there will be no obligation for the SRTs, or there will be no there will be no obligation for the SRTs, and in fact, it will be faster for you to fix it yourself if you fix it yourself. And the other thing is, I would urge you to read this article by a Microsoft developer advocate called Brigitte Krumhout. Containers will not fix your broken culture. Just because you're using new and cool tech doesn't mean that the broken way of working in your team, or the, shall we say, less than perfect way of working in your team, will automatically be fixed. You still need to actually do something about the way that you work, do something about the way that you think, do something about the way that you treat the seriousness with which you treat your job for you to be able to take full advantage of all the stuff you're going to be getting. And this will all be challenging, but I'm convinced that it will make you a better engineer, and it will make bol.com a better company, a better IT company. And also, there will be a default paved road, obviously. If you don't want to do any of this stuff, if you don't want to mess with any of the knobs, there will be, in my analogy, like nice presets that you can use, which will arrange everything for you just the way that, according to the best practices that we as a company have determined, and that will be really easy to use and won't require any fine-tuning. So there's the power there if you want it, but you don't necessarily need to use it. And finally, we want to persuade you to use all this stuff and not force you to use it. You all should be excited to move to the cloud, as excited as I am that we're moving to the cloud. And we need to make that exciting for you by giving you the right tools that allow you to do the right things and relieve the pressures of doing the mundane things. So, finally, I have no time left. Oh, 1 minute, right. So, as I said at the beginning, we need to keep innovating to stay relevant. And we need to move faster and faster and faster. And the only way to do that, as far as I'm concerned, is to move to the cloud. I'm incredibly excited that we're moving there. I'm really, really excited to see what it will bring to bol.com as a company. And I'm really excited to see how it will improve all of you and all of your IT skills. Thanks.
Wow. Awesome, awesome talk. We don't have time for questions, but Maarten will be around. I hope you'll be around the rest of the day.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think a good sign was that David was sitting next to me and he was like, keep going, Very good. We'll take a quick break, change rooms, all that, set up the next speakers, and see you in a bit.